When I played it, it put me in another reality. It was like I wasn't there, and I felt like it was relieving my stress.
You lose reality. You are in an unreal world.
The way the machine works inside is it's a random number generator, and each press of the button's independent from the last, and it's huge odds.
You can't beat the system. The system is not devised to be beaten.
It is estimated that there are up to 60,000 problem gamblers in New Zealand at any one time. To curb the gambling problem, the government has introduced the Gambling Act in 2003. The Act's purpose was to force gambling operators to take some responsibility in the harm gambling causes. Peter Cowsill is a team leader for the Gambling Compliance Group for the Department of Internal Affairs.
The Gambling Compliance Unit has a very extensive audit program which covers all aspects of gambling in casinos, Class 4 venues. The main goal is to ensure that gambling-related harm is prevented and minimised, that gambling-related crime is prevented and minimised, communities are informed about gambling, and that the benefits of gambling actually outweigh the costs. One of the requirements that was in the Act that the venue managers and certainly all the staff that are involved or interacting with the patrons on gaming machines are trained in identifying signs of problem gambling.
Patrick's 40-year gambling addiction finally reached the desperation phase, and he began to descend into criminal activity in an effort to chase his debts.
When I was at the Sky City, in 1 year I spent 28,000 minutes in the casino. Now that was able to be captured because they have a loyalty card there, and I always used to use it on the machine because you got bonus points for it, which eventually you could cash in. I just gambled more and more in the poker machines and sit there for hours and hours and hours and just play the machine, and with this philosophy that it would come around, it would come around. It was always financial pressure. And one of the ways that people find to ease financial pressure is to get some more money. But the problem with gambling is that you use whatever ready money you've got to gamble, and when you lose it, you've actually compounded your problem. Got to the stage where I wasn't using my money, I was using my employer's money. You can only do that for so long, and eventually I was caught out and went through the courts and was convicted and spent a term in jail.
Patrick was convicted of fraud for stealing $745,000 from his employer. He served 3 years and 9 months in prison. 28,000 minutes in a casino in 1 year and a 3-year prison sentence later, Patrick was somewhat disillusioned by Sky City's host responsibility.
I could spend maybe 12 or 18 hours in there in one particular time. There seemed to be no host policy at that stage to actually identify problem gamblers. And certainly no particular desire to, I would suggest. Sometimes I would build up maybe $3,000 or $4,000 on the card, and eventually you'd cash it in, and always, just about always, it went back on the machines. At any stage I could have checked up how long I'd been there and what I'd done, and it was never revealed until Internal Affairs requested the information from them. What I often wonder is, if at any stage they'd come along and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Do you realise you've been here for 12 hours?" Maybe I'd have reacted badly, but we'll never know that.
Problem gamblers obviously don't want to be identified, so they can ensure that they fly under the radar.
The first time I saw anybody from the customer services side of casinos, they turned up at my door because there'd been a newspaper article about me. And they said, "We didn't know you had a problem." "Why didn't you tell us?"
We've got inspectors who work in the casinos, and we've got inspectors who deal with the Class 4 venues, which are pubs and the clubs. All of the machines are linked to an electronic monitoring system, which records all the play on that machine.
Living with a mental illness was tough enough for Gary Vogel, but living with his gambling addiction impacted on his marriage and his children.
My full-blown addiction started after my marriage broke up. I've been separated 12 years, and consequently I filled the void. Had a very successful business myself, and it was a cash business, so I could take money out of it and it just would disappear. I've stolen money off everybody that I could. Fortunately, I haven't been prosecuted for it, but I know who I've taken money off.
I'm not sure if people are aware how much gambling-related crime occurs, how much of a social problem and social cost it really is for the whole community.
We'd go to the pub and in the background I'd hear the pokies. I'd get drawn to them. It was just continued exposure to it. It became my source of stress relief and of everything. It overtook every other thing I wanted to do. I didn't want to go outside. I wanted to sit in front of a machine in a dark pub. And then when I got back to my friends, it was like I didn't want to be there.
To try and escape her gambling addiction, Lynette took off to Australia with her partner and son to begin a new life and start a business together. The relationship with her partner failed as well as their business venture. Desperately lonely and feeling like she had failed, Lynette returned to New Zealand and back to the escapism of the pokie machine.
I ended up coming back to New Zealand with my son and a suitcase. It was benefit day. I went down to the supermarket to get some milk. Things had been really hard. I thought I'll take $20 out and have a play. I stopped at the pub. I walked out of that pub, I'd spent everything. And there was nothing in the cupboards. It works on your psychological part of your mind. It overcomes the desire for food and shelter.
Whatever money I had available, I basically gambled. And it obviously affected my marriage and partnerships and children and all of those around me.
I have a good job. I have 4 children. I have a wife. I have a house. I had everything I needed. That was not enough. My children had to hide the piggy banks because I searched for their pocket money when they're not home and took the money and go and gambled. I couldn't stop.
Thomas also had a difficult relationship with his son, Thomas Jr., who has struggled with his father's addiction.
You're left worrying if your dad's going to pinch your money that you got for your birthday, or your dad's going to pinch your money that you got for anything. The big crunch time for me was when I was 14. I'd come home and he'd stolen all my money and nothing happened, not a word was said. He's always had a problem. Never been able to stop. Really made me cautious with my money.
Thomas has been married for 22 years and has 4 children, but at the height of his gambling addiction, Thomas and his wife separated.
I come home, 2 suitcases in the front of the house. She says, Thomas, I can't live with you anymore. If you continue like this, you kill me. I was a bastard, I was a criminal. I couldn't handle the separation. Then when I really let myself down, and I had no money, I lived in a camper van and a camping ground for a year.
When a problem gambler is identified, there are procedures under the new host responsibility guidelines in which they can exclude themselves from licensed gambling vendors.
I banned myself from the casino at a very early stage after the world collapsed, basically, after my own 9/11.
If they break the exclusion, they can be charged with trespass. They can also exclude themselves from PABs, from horse race betting, but you can't exclude yourself from buying a lotto ticket.
Lotto was the hardest thing for me to give up because it was always the ultimate, that if I won $1 million, wouldn't it be great? It would wipe all the problems I had, which is crazy because it doesn't.
I'm such a bad person. What I'm doing here, if I kill myself, I don't hurt anybody anymore.
The first step to overcome a gambling addiction is to admit that you have a problem, and then recovery can begin by seeking professional help.
I had one-on-one counselling with a wonderful guy. You've got to strike someone who you can get a rapport with and you can be honest with.
The University of, I think, Wellington or Auckland was doing a study on gambling, and I had answered it because I knew it had affected my life. They offered me free counselling. So I called up this woman from the Problem Gambling Association.
If they can identify that they've got a problem, recognise that, bring it out into the open, and want to take some constructive steps about it.
And come to terms with lifestyle changes and behaviour changes that will give them the opportunity to live their lives without gambling.
Then I start to understand, Thomas, you're normal, you're not crazy, but you're sick. My gift to my family was losing the house, losing everything. Time heals because I could see the changes in me. My wife, my family, we are together again. We renewed our vows. We're celebrating 23 years married.
Since giving up gambling, Robin has set up a group called FOG, which brings awareness to problem gambling.
Part of my recovery is actually being involved in helping people with gambling problems, to where I've helped form a group in Christchurch called FOG, which is Focus on Gambling, to make people aware out there of what is happening and the cost, and somewhere where people can maybe take action. The whole problem gambling can be controlled better through a casino, and that's what I'd really love to see. If we can't get rid of them altogether, let's get them back into casinos.
It's something that will always be with me, and it's something that a lot of people just don't understand. They don't understand that an addiction is an addiction and it's not going to go away.
I've had my eyes opened in a big way. I have not put money in a pokie machine for over 18 months now. I'm very strong that I never will, because I know where it will lead me back to.
The success stories are where people change their lives themselves. The success lies in the courage of individuals to do that.
Because I don't find it desirable, it stopped being a problem. Now I hate it.
You can't change history. History's happened, and so you've got to live through that and get on and move on to the rest of your life. So it's kind of knowing that you can actually stop doing something is an amazing feeling.
This program was funded by New Zealand On Air.